people that are here locally in Northeast Ohio. So because of that, I wanted to tap into some resources that are a little bit farther away that I think would be fascinating to students, as well as we do have some folks from outside of the university here in attendance as well. So I'm excited to announce our speaker. Before I get into his bio, though, since this is Jim's class, Jim, are there anything you need to say to your students at all as far as this class goes?
Sure. Well, I just want to say, first of all, a big thank you to you, Jacob, for making this event possible for our brand management class. And a big thank you to Chris Kneeland for sharing part of his day and his expertise with us. Chris, our brand management class has been studying the textbook version, which is full of highly theoretical concepts of branding, all wrapped around the notion of brand equity, a concept that to this point in going through that textbook is rather fleeting, perceptual, and intangible. We've been learning what it is, why it should matter to a firm, how to measure it, and if we're lucky enough to have it be salient enough, how to convert it to a line item on the balance sheet. It is, to put a dollar value on consumers' perceptions. So we are looking forward to having you make this theory and conceptual stuff real examples of brand equity success stories, the who and the how it is done, the practical side of brand perception, and how a few firms have reached cult brand status. So thank you again for sharing your time with us today. And our brand management class looks forward to your presentation.
Oh, my pleasure.
Great. Thanks, Jim. So let me just do a quick little bio, and then we'll just turn the time over to Chris. So I've known Chris since at least 1999, as we were teammates on the Toyota Echo AAF chapter student advertising competition. And it's been great to kind of see him with his career and becoming this expert in this area. So obviously it takes me back to these days in the Harris Fine Arts Center working on this project around how to make a really small, compact Toyota really cool to consumers. By the way, that car does not exist anymore. So I don't know if that's because we didn't do our job or Toyota didn't do their job. I'm not sure. But Chris Kneeland is the co-founder and CEO of Cult Collective. His professional passion is helping brand leaders master new ways of engaging customers, prospects, and staff. In particular, he's committed to helping his clients embrace 8 specific marketing beliefs and behaviors he's discovered while researching the most beloved brands on the planet. Chris held marketing roles at John Deere and the Home Depot and was formerly the head of retail marketing at RAP, Omnicom's preeminent CRM agency. He co-founded Cult in 2012 and has consulted with Harley-Davidson, Canadian Tire, Zappos, Best Buy, Carter's, Oshkosh, Keurig, and a dozen of other brands. And I'd like to point out that I think all of those are household, maybe not Canadian Tire for us down here in the United States, but the rest of them we're definitely very familiar with. Chris speaks regularly at the conferences like South by Southwest, Global Shop, Inbound, NRF, CMA, Digiday, and The Gathering, an event that I've been to up in Banff, which he co-founded. He is the co-author of Fix, Break the Addictions That Are Killing Brands. Chris is an adjunct professor at Mount Royal University, holds a master's degree in marketing communications from Northwestern University, and a Bachelor of Arts from Brigham Young University. He moved to Calgary from Dallas in 2010 with his wife, 3 children, and an obnoxious dog. So with that, I will turn it over to Chris. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you, Jacob. And maybe just occasionally, I'm very insecure about doing these things remotely because the audio can shut off and I can talk for 6 minutes, not realizing that nobody's paying attention. So Jacob, you at least, I see you on video. Jim's already gone off to get a coffee or to read the paper. So I'm going to look to you to kind of say, give me the signal that something's not coming through clearly. And for everybody that's chosen to join us, thank you. Everybody here that's not doing particularly well should take great confidence. Jacob was clearly the weakest link in our Toyota Echo project. And for him to have a nice career here now within the marketing field at an established university gives all of us hope. And Jim, I really love the fact that you're talking about brand equity. I actually believe that brand equity, as a general gross overstatement, the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, is probably the least respected executive in the C-suite. They are just viewed as being too fluffy, too soft, too subjective, and not tethered to commercially hard-nosed metrics. And then when they do bring metrics to the C-suite, it's lame stuff like email open rates and social media shares and maybe sales boosts for the weekend because of some flyer or commercial that got produced. But many firms now, and brand equity is a fairly new concept. By new, I mean around the 80s, it started being added to balance sheets when corporations were getting acquired. And it can be well over half the value of your business. I remember doing a case study on PepsiCo when Frito-Lay bought them, and they was like, you know, they had factories and warehouses and inventory and people and computers, but most of the value of their acquisition price was brand equity. And that sort of opened, I think, a lot of people's eyes to, you know, what are we really doing as marketers, and why are we working so hard to do these superficial ROI-based campaigns when we should be adding tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars to the balance sheet. So I love that you're focused on that. What you're talking about is very different than what I learned about. And Jacob and I both went to Northwestern, where there was a guy named Philip Kotler. Philip Kotler is often referred to as the grandfather of modern day marketing. He is the one that they've attributed the 4 Ps to. So I would argue any good marketing student, even today, would know about product, price, place, and promotion as the elements of marketing. You know, we didn't talk about brand equity, probably because it didn't start with a P at the time, but the 4 Ps of marketing were super important. And even if you just defer to that definition, I think you could say that most marketers today have devolved into a superficial, I would say, very unfortunate situation of not mastering their craft because they're not masters of marketing. They're masters of promotion. So they've really over-indexed on that 1 P of promotion, and it's very rare now to find marketers, traditionally trained marketers, informing companies' product mix, product portfolio, service offering, value propositions, distribution strategies, pricing strategies. Those have all been delegated to other departments, and I think it's marketers' fault. I think we have allowed those things to be taken out of our job description because we've been overly distracted on the sexy, which is Super Bowl commercials and print ads and Cannes Lions Awards and one aspect of marketing, which is advertising. In fact, my team, we researched 100 publicly posted positions for VPs of marketing or CMOs within the Fortune 500, and 90% of those job positions overemphasize the management of marketing communications and ad agency relationships. And that's a problem. That is saying that, you know, we are not only distracted, we are fundamentally flawed in thinking that a position that commandeers so much discretionary budget is going to spend that money trying to make communications funnier, tell better stories, get more social media likes. It has a place. I'm not saying that that you shouldn't have good advertising, but if that's your first line of defense, you're distracted. It's why I've kind of come to the conclusion that we don't really even have a generation of marketers anymore. We have bred an entire generation of markdowners, people who spend the majority of their day in the creation and promotion of sales promotions. And we're addicted to it. The whole purpose of our book is we use this metaphor of drug addiction, and businesses at large have gotten addicted to the heroin of a well-promoted sales event. And I get it. It is both fun and effective temporarily, probably like getting high or getting drunk is fun or effective temporarily. But if you are consistently getting high or drunk, you become an addict. You become addicted and it consumes you, and you start to overdose and you could eventually die. And when you read things about the retail apocalypse as an example with tens of thousands of businesses and stores being closed. That's not all COVID's fault. That is marketers' fault and business leaders' fault, that they just thought that they could, promote their way through a recession or a pandemic. Many of you may remember Groupon. When Jacob and I were coming out of school, Groupon was one of the most desirable employers in Chicago to come and work for us with this multi-billion-dollar valuation, and they're a fraction. They may not even be around. This is dated information. I mean, Groupon tried to trick business leaders into thinking that if you just gave away unsustainably low deals to attract customers to you, they would somehow return and pay full price. And that just never happened. In fact, you could Google all sorts of Groupon horror stories, and small dry cleaners, car detailing shops, restaurants that all went out of business because they gave away such steep deals that they had to honor legally through Groupon, and then the customers never returned because the customers got trained to say, oh, if you're just going to bribe me all the time with discounts, why would I ever come back and pay full price? Or because they were getting such a steep discount, they had an inferior customer experience, so they were like, that sucked, and I would never come back. So that strategy completely backfired. I think part of the problem is that we have kind of grown up in this sort of instant gratification, Tinder-like society where brands behave like dating prospects behave on Tinder, where Tinder essentially overemphasizes your profile pic, your brief description of who you are, and that you're just hoping to have some sort of instantaneous transaction. It is not the foundation of long-term relationships. So brands cannot just pretend that by having a nice sign, a pretty logo, a funny ad, some clever copy, that people are going to stay. Tinder is voted the #1 app for late night hookups. So it has a purpose, but that purpose is counter to all of the principles that really result in a meaningful long-term relationship. So you get somebody like eHarmony. eHarmony is one of the most successful online dating sites. They claim more people get married as a result of their eHarmony profile than any other dating app. And it's because they have prioritized different things. They're talking about a completely different level of intimacy with their customers or with their clients. So just as you wouldn't think about going to Tinder to find your lifelong soulmate, you might, as a business, think differently about going to different types of strategies or different types of platforms to have more long-term, mutually beneficial customer relationships. Because brands that think about getting engaged, or we talk about engagement as a marketing principle, marketing didn't invent the idea of engagement. Humans did. Couples did. They make promises to each other. They listen and they respond and they resolve concerns and they think long term. And when you apply that type of playbook, you have very different tactics, and you prioritize different disciplines, and you look for people with different talents than people that are just looking for very short-term, transactional, one-off kind of relationship. So I'm a huge fan. My career has been largely devoted to customer relationship management and boosting brands' engagement with customers. And the more I study it, the more I realize it is identical to the psychology and the effort that goes into human relationships. And so you're going to get out of those customer relationships what you put into it, and you have to decide, is this what you're chasing or is this what you're chasing? Now, there are a few notable exceptions. I am not a believer that every business has the potential of having super engaged, high customer lifetime value. I do not want a relationship with my tuna fish company. Tuna, in my opinion, is commoditized. Tuna has done very little to try to create meaningful differentiation, right? So if your job is to sell tuna, you might say, listen, let's just call a spade this is going to be transactional. This is not something that people are going to get particularly excited about. In the B2B sense, the same could be said maybe with photocopiers, right? It's really difficult to find an executive that gets particularly passionate about their photocopier. They just want it to work. They don't want a paper jam, and they want it to be affordable. So if you're in that business, you might over-index on just price or features. And, similarly, up until the pandemic, nobody cared about toilet paper. Now, obviously, in March and April, this became like gold for some reason. I want to see the CNN follow-up story of the toilet paper hoarders that are now sitting on irresponsible supplies of toilet paper because they didn't. I never went to bed at night worrying about we're going to run out of the ability to buy toilet paper, but I was in the exception. So there's clearly some categories that are so commoditized, meaning there's so little differentiation. And yeah, you could argue single ply versus two ply, but let's just be honest. If you're not buying two, unless you're a starving college student, splurge, get the two ply, make your life a little bit better, right? So there are a few categories that I think it would be a fool's errand to try to go and create more meaning behind those brands. So if you're in that category, you really only have one trick, and that's get really good at advertising and to get really good at sales. And you just have to call a spade, and you're going to just have to accept the fact that those are the most effective tools, and let's not try to make this relationship more than it could be. The problem is that most people arrive at that conclusion inappropriately. Most people too quickly default to, well, my category or my company or my product are not very sexy, therefore I'm just going to have to do advertising and sales all day. And I think that that's where I get most frustrated, because I have seen what good looks like. I have seen what courage looks like. I've seen what creativity looks like. And there's a whole host of businesses that are currently over-relying on mass media or over-relying on markdowns when they could be focusing on far more beneficial and rewarding things. Let me give you some examples. I'm hearing a weird beep. Am I okay, Jacob?
Yeah, that's just people joining in. So we got more people coming in. Yeah, that beep is just people jumping in on the call. So you're good. Yep.
I was worried it was people jumping off and that we were having a mass exodus here.
No. Your toilet paper comment did not turn anyone away. So they're all two-ply believers.
We haven't offended the toilet paper industrial complex. Listen,
big toilet paper is not watching.
I've worked with a couple of gas station brands. Gas is insane. People will drive 5 miles across town to save 2 cents on a gallon. I remember doing a promotion once with a grocery store where you could save 10 cents a gallon, or we would give you a $15 coupon in the store. And like 90% of the people chose the 10 cents a gallon, even though they don't realize maybe they have a 40-gallon car that 10 cents is worth $4 to them. And I was offering them $15 off of their food, but there's something irrational about gasoline. People love finding the lowest priced gas, but not all gasoline companies or gas stations have decided that they're in this unsexy, commoditized category. So the best that we can hope for is to just focus on advertising and sales. Some gas stations have expected more of themselves. My personal favorite is a chain called Wawa. Do they have Wawas in your neck of the woods? Yeah. So, I don't know, I'm most familiar with their case study in Pennsylvania, where they are obscene. There's an affinity for Wawa that is difficult to describe. There's over 220 locations in Philadelphia, and it consistently outranks everybody. They've got a better Subway sandwich than Jimmy John's or Subway. They've got better coffee than Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. They They just have this community-centric vibe to them, where the high school kids hang out in the parking lot after school, and they're wildly successful. They do $9 billion in sales. I mentioned the hoagie, the breakfast sandwich, the coffee. One of the other things they've done that's very innovative is they have this employee ownership program where over 40% of the business is owned by the staff, which means that cashier that's helping you get your cigarettes, or the guy making your sandwich, or the gal pumping your gas could be a millionaire because of the stock that they own in Wawa, but they continue to go to work every day because they have bought into what this company sort of represents. And it's actually a secret there that we've discovered in studying these cult brands. There's this very high correlation between brands that are beloved externally and brands that are great places to work, that are phenomenal employers, and that they actually, we call it building from the inside out, where they decide we're never going to be more loved than we're loved by the people who choose to work here all day, every day. So they go out of their way to become amazing employers. Wawa has decided that they're going to spend, even though they're at the top of their game, even though that they're the category leader, they're investing an additional $250 million into their business to, quote, expand and renovate our empire. So they don't rest on their laurels. They don't think that they've arrived. They're in this perpetual world of self-improvement, which is a fantastic culture to seek out when you're looking for a job, or if you have a job, to decide how aggressive are we being versus are we taking some things for granted, because it doesn't take long. I've seen businesses go from boom to bust in less than 12 months. And so you don't really have these long runways of just sort of sitting back and resting on your laurels. So the first thing I would encourage you as students is you've got to decide. You've got to decide where you're going to devote your best self, where are you going to devote your best talent, and start to establish your career. And make the first decision, what is the company? Is the company a commodity, meaning there's no meaningful differentiation? There's nothing particularly special about it. And if you choose that path, you will prioritize storytelling and sales. And that's fun. I mean, I don't want to take away from that career choice. You can have a fantastic career, but you're always going to be putting lipstick on a pig. You're always going to be trying to make something very mediocre seem slightly better than average. And I personally did that for the first 10 years of my life. And then I found it too superficial. I found it too subjective. I was actually bothered that, well, why don't we take some of this money and actually make a better product, or create a better customer experience, or do something a bit more remarkable? And I started to look at even commoditized brands like this. You take something like lip balm, or a caffeinated beverage, or a snack food, or a performance drink, and you start to realize, oh, wait a second, even though these are in commoditized categories, these brands have decided I'm not going to be ordinary. I'm going to create something extraordinary by having a completely different strategy about how we engage our audiences. So, you know, Red Bull is my personal favorite, and we were talking with Red Bull back in the days, like months after they dropped Felix Baumgartner out of space. Some of you may remember that campaign and the courage that took, because there was a high likelihood he was going to die, and they're telling, they had 80 million people watching, likely a brand, you know, killing somebody out of space. But you know, Red Bull rarely talks about their beverage. Instead, they talk about this lifestyle that their fans and their followers want to live, which is this life of having wings and living with no boundaries and living sort of your fully caffeinated best self. There's lots of stories on each of these that I don't have time to dive into right now, but I would hope that you could look at brands like these and say, yeah, they're a bit different. Snickers is no longer in the candy bar business. Several years ago, Snickers decided we're going to create a new category. Snickers is in the alleviation of hunger business, the snack food business. They're almost more like a power bar now than they are a candy bar or a meal replacement option. And it's brilliant. And they don't even say Snickers on their wrappers anymore. They say things like hangry or irritable, like all the symptoms of people that aren't being that are suffering from hunger. Not like in an Ethiopia kids with flies flying around their head, but in I need 2 more hours before I can get home and eat a real meal, so I'm going to grab a Snickers, which is very different than I'm going to have a treat after dinner and maybe have a Twix bar or a Reese's peanut butter cup or something like that. So there's just completely different strategies, and I'm more attracted to the marketers who say, no, I'm not going to put lipstick on a pig. I'm actually going to create a better business. Well, some of the ways that we look at businesses' success is stock performance. And so if you look back in the past 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, actually that's not true. From 2008 to 2018 was the 10 years that we did the analysis. There were 3 stocks that were the top performing stocks of the decade. So we would say, all right, let's use that as a proxy or as an indicator that at least the marketplace is responding well to what they're doing. And you get the companies like Amazon, the 3rd best performing stock. I would argue Amazon is one of the most customer-centric, marketing-savvy brands on the planet. Too many people are too quick to write them off as like they somehow have an exception or they get a pass because they're Amazon. They earned their category dominance, and they did it through smart marketers deciding, hey, in addition to having a great experience with a low price, what else can we do to make our business irresistible? And years ago, they invented this one-click ordering button, recognizing that one of the biggest problems with online shopping is abandoned shopping carts and all the extra steps. And, hey, do you want to opt in for this email? And do you have a promo code? What shipping address? And insert your payment information. And they made what should have been the simplest part, buying, the hardest part. And so Amazon said, screw that. And they used marketers to imagine a whole new way to do it. And even to this day, even despite all of Amazon's success and this being not secret, most e-commerce sites still don't have a one-click to buy button, which is just stupid. You're not paying attention if you don't understand part of their secret sauce was just making it super simple to order. Amazon is not resting on their laurels. Their marketing department is now thinking about no-click to order, just using Alexa to say, hey, I need more milk, and Alexa will order it. I don't know if you guys have seen this. When do you know that you're out of laundry detergent? When you put the load in and you go to pour the laundry detergent and it's gone. And you're like, I need more laundry detergent. Now you just push the button and laundry detergent shows up same day in some markets, next day in most markets. And it's a brilliant way for marketers to say, we're in the business of making it brain dead simple to use Amazon. And if you can then co-partner with somebody like Tide, so that Tide even pays for it. I always like to say the best marketing in the world gets paid for, so that you're not even spending money, you're making money. Red Bull makes about as much money on their activations, their events, their stunts, their content, as they do on their soft drinks now. Victoria's Secret used to make $20 million for their fashion runway show. So rather than paying millions of dollars to be on primetime television for a commercial, they got paid $20 million for a 2-hour commercial aired on network television. So real marketing shouldn't be about sitting around saying, how much is this going to cost? Real marketing should be sitting around saying, how much can we make? Now I'm on a tangent. Lego is my other favorite example. When sales were down at Lego, lazy marketers would say, let's offer a coupon. Let's do a buy one, get one free sale. Smart marketers said, let's go make a movie. Make a movie? What do you mean make a movie? What's that cost? $80 million. $80 million. Sales are down. I'm not going to go spend $80 million. But smart marketers talk smart executives into it. The Lego movie went on to make $400 million for the brand, and it reintroduced their toys to a whole new generation of both kids and parents. So example after example of the difference between, am I just going to try to promote coupons, and commercials, or am I going to try to make my business actually better? Netflix was the second best performing business of the past decade. You got to really respect what Netflix has done. I knew Netflix as an alternative to Blockbuster Video that sent me DVDs in the mail. And the biggest reason why you went with Netflix is because Hollywood Video and Blockbuster Video, both of whom have been clients of mine in the past, made money on late fees. So they wanted customers to keep movies longer than agreed to so that you would pay a penalty when you brought the movie back. And Netflix said, screw that, keep the movie as long as you want. And customers flocked to them. And then with the same executive team, the same marketing department, they pivoted. And they said, you know what, let's get out of the mail order business and get into the streaming video business before people had the bandwidth or the tools to know how to do it. And then, even though that business was exploding and Netflix became the #1 distributor of streaming content, they said that's not enough. Let's now start producing original content. They saw in their crystal ball the days where Disney might take the Marvel Universe back or their Disney classics, and Netflix couldn't be left, showing bad reruns of the Golden Girls. So they started producing their own movies well in advance of the marketplace saying that they needed to, which is a sign of great marketing. Marketing understands customer insight and customer trends and goes back to their businesses saying, we need to change. We need to be better. We need to evolve. We need to change up what we're selling and how we're selling it. And good executives listen to those marketing recommendations. Now I feel like I'm yelling at you. Is everybody okay? I'm going to take a breath here and just chill out. I get frustrated because to me it just seems so obvious what good looks like, and yet when I say most, over 80% of businesses do it wrong. They settle. They go for the easy way out versus doing the few things that would make them exceptional. There's a great quote that says, good is the enemy of great. And I think that's so true. Businesses that are pretty good settle, and they say, let's just stay here, as opposed to push themselves to strive to become even better. Now, does anybody want to take a guess at the #1 performing stock of the past decade? Jim, what about you? You think you have a clue what the biggest winner in North America was?
Oh, I think you're on mute, Jim. No, wait. Oh, your mic. There's an issue with your mic. Always the fun. I'll take a guess. Chris. I'm gonna go best performing stock. I'm gonna go some B2B company. Let's say or did you say that these are consumer, like in the beginning? Did you look at only business and consumer, or was it B2B as well?
We didn't look at any category. We just took the top 3 performing stocks that if you had invested $10 in 2008, who would have made you the most money by 2018. And it's not a B2B company.
It's not.
It's not the most, and it's not what I would argue is the most obvious answer, which is Apple. I think people.
Right. I would have guessed the tech stock if you guys can hear me now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear. It is tech, but it's Priceline. Now, it's a bit of a cheat because Priceline went on a spending spree, and they bought Kayak and Expedia, I think, and there's a lot of mergers and acquisitions that went into the idea that everybody now, I mean, in the past 10 years, think about between 2008 and 2018, one industry that kind of went the way of the fax machine was the travel agent. Like everybody now can just go online and buy their own airfare and get the best deal. But what's so fascinating to me about Priceline specifically is not William Shatner. It is their entire business model focuses on one of the 4 P's of marketing that marketers don't do anything about, and that's price. Marketers promote, marketers discount, but in terms of really smart pricing strategy, people like the airlines or sporting events have perfected pricing strategy, because you figure everybody on that airplane is getting to the same destination at the same time. But some people on an airplane pay $200 and some people pay $2,000, right? And is it because they get an extra bag of chips or a glass of wine in first class? That's a premium price point to pay for pretty modest perks. So pricing alone is a fascinating field of marketing study that not enough businesses think about. But consider Priceline's value proposition. They said, you tell us what you want to do and how much you want to spend, and we'll find a way to make it happen. So I can say, I want to go to Disneyland and I have $500 for my family of 3, go. And Priceline then says, okay, here's when you're going to have to go this time, given the ticket prices, you're going to have to stay at this type of hotel, and you're going to have to take this red-eye flight, but here's how you could do it. That's brilliant. I mean, that's a combination of artificial intelligence and data science and just marketers thinking smartly. Why can't my entire life be like that? Why can't I go to somebody and say, I need a new suit, I have $800, and if you could throw in a tie and a pair of shoes, great, go. And it tells me you should go to Macy's to get the suit, you should go to Kohl's to get the white shirt, and you should go to some other place to get the tie, right? Like Priceline went to work for the consumer, and no brand, I don't care if you're a car company, a retailer, a jewelry store, nobody has figured out how to replicate that kind of success, and it's criminal because it's so powerful. It resulted in the #1 performing business of the past decade. Now, Jacob had talked to me about Goodyear. I guess Goodyear is a big employer that maybe a lot of your students go to. I would argue the unsophisticated, uncreative, uncourageous marketer might say, Goodyear's a tire company. It's commoditized, and am I really going to spend my life on steel radials or all weather versus winter? Am I going to spend my life on free flat tire repair or all the pretty pedestrian things that you could do for a commoditized category like tires? And I would say, shame on you if you think that, because Goodyear could become, there's really nothing more important to the safety of your family when driving than your tires. And yet brands like Volvo dominate the safety conversation, or anti-lock brakes, or a variety of different features and benefits that get into driving. And I was fascinated in looking into the tire business on the story of the Michelin star. And is that well known, Jacob? Do you think that's the history of the Michelin star? Do you think everybody that in the tire business knows why that's so powerful?
I mean, I think the idea of a Michelin star, but the fact that it came from the tire company is probably not. I would say that they had heard of the term Michelin star, but then correlating that with that's actually from the tire company. I know this story, and it is fantastic. I actually have a Michelin guidebook from pre-World War II in France. And again, the goal was, I'm sure you're going to talk about this in a second, was to get people to buy more tires, so they got to travel more. If they travel more, tires are going to wear down. So let's give them a reason to go out and drive more and wear down those tires to buy more tires. That's kind of my interpretation of what they've done with this.
That's exactly right. You just stole all my thunder. Yeah, what Jacob just said. Think about the marketing department at Michelin in the 1930s and 40s. They need people to buy tires. Option A, let's run a bunch of advertisements. Option B, let's buy 3 tires, get the 4th tire free. Or option C, let's send some chefs all around Europe to find the fanciest restaurant. Those people would get laughed out of the room. Those people aren't playing by the rules. But that is what good marketing is. Good marketers would say, let's understand what we really need to happen, which is we need people, in order to buy more tires, you have to wear your tires down. In order to wear your tires down, you have to drive more often. So when you think about the 3 stars, exceptional cuisine, worth a special journey, is saying this place in Germany is so worthwhile, get in your car and make a road trip. And oh, by the way, if you happen to wear out your tires or you need some gas, we happen to take care of that as well. They exhibited tremendous discipline. They didn't ruin something that was very special by making it overly commercialized, you know, and I think nowadays every brand wants to argue, well, my logo's not big enough. It's like, it's not about that. It's not about trying to get somebody who gets your Michelin star guide to come buy a tire tomorrow. It's about people thinking differently about tires. It's a fantastic case study. The Guinness Book of World Records is a very similar thing, instituted by Guinness Beer before there was Google, so that you could have bar conversations. And then my personal favorite is De Beers Diamonds, who in the 30s and 40s found themselves with way more diamonds than buyers. So they created what I think to this day is the most effective marketing campaign of all time, which makes me feel like a schmuck if I don't spend 3 months' salary on the diamond ring for my wife when we get engaged, and that the diamond ring has become the industry standard for what is required. And that's not a law. That's a marketing campaign where we've all been bamboozled by brilliant marketers who have found out ways to sell more diamonds. So marketing, if you apply the right sort of mindset, is so fabulously awesome. It is so much better than just advertising and sales, because you're not just trying to do sales and promotions and stories. You're trying to build things that people care about. And so I'm trying to motivate more people to do marketing and less advertising. But it doesn't stop there. It's a pyramid with 3 tiers. What's at the top, you might ask? Well, it's a thing called advocacy, because advertising is about awareness, marketing is about acquisition, but what we call cult branding, becoming so beloved that people not only buy from you, they tell everybody they know to buy from you. That's a whole different playbook altogether. And it's even better than marketing. And it's a master class of thinking about a completely different way to build affinity for your brand, because the more advocates you get, the less need you have for advertising, because people are just coming in through word of mouth. So you get brands like Lululemon, who got to $3 billion in sales without spending a penny on advertising. You get the brands like Tesla, who are now valued more than all of the automotive brands combined, and they spend zero on mass media. So it's fascinating to say, well, how do brands transcend that? How did Tesla become so much more valuable than the Ford Motor Company or General Mills, or not General Mills, General Motors? I'm curious about that. So we start looking into their playbooks and their brand strategies. And in the time that we have left, and remind me, Jacob, when do I need to shut up and stop talking?
Class is done at 1:30. So yeah, probably another
20 minutes.
15. Yeah, and we have some question and answer.
Let me breeze through some of these. So if Philip Kotler made millions of dollars and got famous by instituting the 4 Ps in the 1950s, I would like to introduce the 4 Ds of cult branding, and it will hopefully be kind of fun. So the first D is to don't disappoint. And that sounds obvious. It also technically is 2 Ds, but I'm just counting it as one, disappointing. It's really impossible to have any sort of conversation about over-delivering and achieving cult-like status if your brand or your business is in a state of disappointment. Now, those of you who may be married can relate to this, but you know, I recognize that I disappoint people all the time, most notably my wife. This is a couple here having an argument, and the quality of my life nosedives in that personal situation until I apologize and I admit that I was an idiot. And I think more brands need to step up and admit when they're idiots, because there are brands that have assaulted passengers and thrown them off of airplanes. That's a stupid thing to do. That should never have happened. There are brands that used to be beloved and then started killing their customers with E. coli, not once, not twice, but 3 times. So Chipotle can have no conversation about reclaiming its cult-like status until it gets its act together about their food quality product. Lululemon, as much as I love them and hold them up as one of my favorite cult brands, sold pants that were see-through. that's a problem. Women didn't like that. And then when the CEO says, well, maybe you're too big, you shouldn't be wearing our pants, that's a bigger problem. So they can't be idiots, and that CEO needs to be replaced. Macy's cannot have their cash registers crash on Black Friday, resulting in thousands of people standing in line that are pissed off. You lose all that brand equity and goodwill that you've been banking when you can't do the basics very well. You can't lie to your customers and cheat the system and try to get away with things that will result in scandal. So somebody needs to be responsible for making sure that you're acting honestly and ethically. You can't lose people's data or allow people's personally identifiable information to get into the hands of bad actors. You need to spend your time making sure that all the blocking and tackling of your business is done appropriately before you start playing with the darker arts of cult branding. And it's not always these massive PR scandals. It might be something as simple as you have a really uncomfortable waiting room and you leave people sitting around for hours. This is why people hate the government DMV kind of process. Is there's just no thought or intention, versus we work with medical chains and hospitals and chiropractors that their waiting rooms become like spas. And you get there early and you stay late because you just want to associate with that. And that's a better use of your time and money than an advertisement or a coupon. There's a lot of businesses that to this day still aren't completely optimized for mobile, even though most businesses are interacting, consumers are interacting on their smartphones more than on the desktop. So they're just not paying attention. And that's where the marketers must start through things like journey mapping to understand where you're failing. To this day, there's still too many rude or pissy cashiers or people who feel like you're inconveniencing them for shopping their store or asking a question. So marketers should be spending a disproportionate amount of their time and money on training and creating advocates from within so that people are excited and lathered up. There's still way too many businesses that encourage you to get lost in a 15-minute, wild west of IVRs and push 9 for this and wait on hold for that. And I'm going to have to transfer you over here where you get started all over again from the beginning. It's just completely inappropriate. And if you took some of that money out of television or TV or, God forbid, a Super Bowl commercial, and you gave it to your call center and said, make it so that every phone is answered by a human being on the second ring, that's marketing. That's not customer service. That's understanding what our customers need in order to fall in love with us better. And then certainly one of the things that I think IKEA did well, but I mean, if this is your assembly instruction, you've got a problem. Like, you've got to think through the entirety of the process, not just getting somebody to buy it from the shelf, but how are they going to interact with it when they take it home? It's one of the things that Apple does so well. Getting a new iPhone feels like Christmas morning. It's packaged so nicely, and it's already charged, and it's so thoughtful, and it says hello to you the minute that you turn it on, and it walks you through step by step how to transfer from the cloud and get all your stuff on there. It's thoughtfulness, it's intentionality, and it's marketing. It deals with customer experience more than storytelling or sales promotions. The problem is we don't know whose job that is. That's not typically viewed as the CMO. Remember I told you 90% of CMOs positions deal with the management of marketing communications and agency relationships. So we need to create new positions. We need to have new paradigms in our organizational structures. What we see most often happening now is the Chief Customer Experience Officer that starts to look at all of those things that are impacting the customer experience. This is a guy named Dan Heath. He took over Sprint many years ago. Sprint was just getting killed. They were ranked the worst business for customer service. Not the worst telecommunications company for customer service, just the worst business in America for customer service. When he became the CEO, he looked around his C-suite. Who's going to fix this? Who's responsible for customer service? And everybody did one of these. Operations said, not me, it's marketing. Marketing said, not me, it's HR. HR said, not me, it's somebody else. So he said, screw all y'all, I'm going to take it over. And he personally went on a journey to make Sprint a beloved company brand, and he succeeded. He transformed Sprint into the #1 customer service wireless company, the most improved company of customer satisfaction in any industry, and Laptop Magazine named him the single most influential person in mobile tech. You know who #2 was? Steve Jobs. So what Dan Hess did for Sprint is what more of you, I hope this rising generation of students, can do for the businesses that you're going to go into. You're going to go in and ask harder questions. You're going to go in and expect more for your career because we're breeding marketers, not mark downers. And that's going to be one of the biggest problems of why most brands will never get there, is they don't have an executive that's empowered and committed to making the don't disappoint part of the equation go away. Let me, shoot, I think maybe I'm missing a slide here. Let me give you this little example. I can't remember the D, though, for the life of me. This is a project that we did for Home Depot, and it dealt with how are they going to compete. Home Depot was entering into a heating and cooling for your business, where you don't just buy your heater from Home Depot, but they actually send a technician out to your house to do it. And they were very, very late to the game. So they decided we got to do some research to understand how we're going to compete. And here's a list of all the things that came out of the research that all the other local, home hardwares or Lowe's or I forget all the brands that were associated with it now, but there's dozens. Most of them are single person, father, son in a pickup truck comes to your house and fixes your HVAC system. You can't succeed at everything. You got to pick your battles. So we did some better research that said in the green, what do consumers want? In the orange, how well does Home Depot deliver that? And in the blue, how well does their biggest competitor, in this case, Lowe's, deliver that? So look at the data. You have to start to make some interesting questions. You could focus on offering one because consumers really want it and we're not considered very good at it and our competitors are. So if we're going to compete in that space, we're going to have to dethrone the competitor. Same story for offering #4. But if you look at offering #2, maybe you double down on that because it's almost as important to customers as offering #1, and we're already recognized as being better at it than our competitors are. Same with offering #3, but offering #3 has the distinct advantage of being the single most important thing that customers care about. So you have to start to make some strategic decisions to say, are we going to win more where we're already winning, or are we going to try to go after the areas that we know are important, but our customers are doing it better? A different example than HVAC, but Hyundai had this issue in the first recession in 2009 with the housing crisis. Hyundai was already winning in regards to price. So them offering employee pricing or $1,000 rebates was irrelevant. Customers wanted cheap prices, and Hyundai offered cheap prices. Where Hyundai was losing was in quality. People thought that a Toyota or a Honda or even a Kia was better quality. So Hyundai offered the top warranty in the program, in the class, a 10-year bumper-to-bumper warranty, which was unheard of, twice as rich as what their nearest competitors had offered. And so rather than spending money on commercials saying come in and buy a Hyundai because they're on sale, they said come in and buy a Hyundai, we will double the warranty. They also came out with a thing called the Hyundai Assurance Program, which said if you lose your job after buying a Hyundai, you can return it and we'll give you your money back, which is now in this recession becoming a default that all the automotive brands are copying. The point is you have to find ways that you can compete, and oftentimes the ways that you can do that is through superior customer service. When asked by a company called Bain & Company, how good are you at that? 80% of people that work in the company said, we're really good at customer service. We're better than average. In fact, we're superior. But then when Bain asked the customers of those brands, how good are you at customer service, only 8% said that they are superior. That's a problem. That's a huge disconnect with people that are not paying attention. So then I apologize. I can't remember the D for tip number 2. The D for tip number 3 is to delight. So if the first part was, I think the number 2 was get data, understand the facts about where your customers actually think you are or are not. So first one is stop disappointing people. The second point is get the data to understand what people really need from you. The third is to delight them. And this is the romance that keeps, just as I mentioned at the beginning, good marketing is not that different than just having a good personal relationship with a spouse or a significant other. My wife loves it when I do little things like bring flowers home or plan a date night or just kind of do something above and beyond to delight her. Customers do too. Unfortunately, there's only a handful of brands that are popular, I would argue world famous, for how well they delight customers. Disney, the Four Seasons, Nordstrom's, Zappos. These are brands that have gone out of their way to not just be good businesses, but to become famous for how exceptional they're going to treat their customers. They have all written books about this. This is not a secret. Just not enough marketers are paying attention to exploit the rules. One of my personal favorite examples is a restaurant chain called Smashburger. You guys have Smashburger where you're at? No, it's not any more special than an In-N-Out burger in LA or a Five Guys. But when I ask my kids, hey, where do you want to go for dinner? They always say Smashburger. And when I tried to dive into it, it's a decent hamburger and a nice thing of fries. But what they love are the shakes, because they have this big list of different shakes that you can get. And in addition to pouring you your shake, they give you the tin on the left or the right there of all the excess shake. And yes, they could have been very, very frugal and measured the amount of milk and ice cream and chocolate chips that should go into the shake so that it tops off that glass just perfectly. But instead, they encourage their associates to put extra ingredients so that you get a good 50% more in that tin. And I'm paying $6 or $7 for these shakes. So it's not that big of a cost to them. But my boys say, okay, you order the mint chocolate chip, I'm going to get the Oreo. We'll drink the shake they give us, and then we'll swap with the tin so that you kind of get 2 shakes for 1 price. So simple. It was somebody just paying attention, somebody watching, somebody understanding. If burgers are burgers, what can we do at our place that's going to delight people? Probably the most popular example, if you want to Google it, it's called the Magic Castle Inn in Los Angeles. It's a crappy little hotel, but they have this bat phone by the swimming pool called the Popsicle Hotline, where at any time during the day, your kids can get out of the pool, pick up the red phone. The guy says, what flavor? And they'll say cherry or grape or lime. And then they come out on a silver platter, and they make your kid feel like $1 million, and they give them a popsicle. And my kids will order an irresponsible number of popsicles, probably 6 or 8 a day. What do you think a popsicle costs? Maybe 25 cents. So the Magic Castle Inn charges me $100 more a night than the Courtyard Marriott across the street. But my kids insist that I pay the extra $100 to go to the Magic Castle Inn, even though they're going to cost the hotel $8 in popsicles to feed the Kneeland boys. Somebody's paying attention. Somebody's thinking, what can we do to delight? I mentioned Tesla. Tesla is loaded with surprise and delight features. Some of you may have seen what they did at Christmas, where you could hit a button and your car starts singing jingle bells to you, and the doors are going up and down and the lights are going off. It's ridiculous. Like, that makes no sense unless you're a marketer who says, how do we get 2 million videos of people talking about Tesla? Have your car sing jingle bells to you. When you get into a Tesla, if you want to go super fast, you have a button that says sport mode. It's actually referred to as ludicrous speed. So you can go fast or you can go stupid fast, super fun. If you push ludicrous speed, the car then says, are you sure you really want to do this to yourself in the car, or do you want your mommy? Right? It's just such a little piece of fun copywriting. It didn't cost them any more to put a little wink and a smile and a piece of humor into their customer experience. It just required somebody paying attention. That's what a marketer should do. If this was a live, I'd show the video of the Tesla kind of started playing Jingle Bells. Probably my favorite example of surprise and delight is the Genius Bar at the Apple Store. Not a single retail expert thought that this was genius when Steve Jobs came up with it, and his head of marketing, Ron Johnson, who helped make Target a cult-like brand. Everybody thought this was a bad idea. Everybody thought that Steve Jobs was going to finally lose his marbles, and it has gone on to make Apple stores the single highest revenue per square foot store on the planet. They've trumped Tiffany's, which was selling $15,000 and $20,000 pieces of jewelry. Apple's selling $1,500 phones. But it was such a brilliant idea. Every tech company is now trying to copy Apple. None of them have done so with the same degree of charm and effectiveness. And it just goes to show you, don't be a follower, be a leader. Go into your career with boldness and hold the bar very high. There is no shortage of things that you can do to delight people. And there's no shortage of money to do it. If you stop discounting and you stop shouting so loudly in mass media, you can redeploy those dollars into things that let your customers interact with each other, or you teach them something, or they make the planet a little bit better, whatever it might be. All right, my last D before I turn it over to questions is, one of the biggest problems that brands have is they simply can't decide. They don't choose to be awesome in any one thing. They just try to be slightly better than average across lots of things. And that's a recipe for mediocrity. Decide is a wonderful word. It actually has a root that is tied to death or to killing. So if you think of homicide, suicide, genocide, pesticide, it deals with killing. And so to decide something is to decide what you're not going to do so that you have the attention, the energy, the dollars, the talent to do something else exceptionally. Steve Jobs said in his book, I don't want to be remembered for the things I said yes to. I want to be remembered for the things I said no to. The courage to decide, to not just dabble across a variety of things. So if you're going to choose to be an advertiser, just do all of your energy on advertising. But if you're going to choose to be a marketer, stop spending all your time on advertising and start doing marketing. And if you're going to decide to be a cult brand, stop advertising and marketing and start doing cult branding, and you'll find you have plenty of resources at your disposal, but it requires you to make some tough decisions. I'm going to shut up now here, Jacob. There's just a last thought around, I wanted to maybe turn it over to your students or yourselves. There's been some discussion, I guess, about this is quite an attractive employer out of your school. Having heard what you've just heard, how is J.M. Smuckers? Are they a good advertiser? Are they a good marketer? Or are they a cult brand?
So I can give a thought about that, but I'd like to open up to students. Love to hear some from students in Jim's class. Any thoughts on that? Anyone want to share what they think about this?
Have any of you interned there?
Oh, let me see the participant list. Any thoughts, students? Well, let me while they're thinking about it. You know, it's interesting. I think I mentioned this, Chris, in my email to you that, you know, I can't even think about bringing home Skippy to my house. I have to bring home Jif, and Jif is a Smucker brand. So for me, in our house, there's some cult brand elements of Jif. And we're paying, you know, I don't even think it matters if there's a coupon for it. Jif is the only thing that comes into our house. Jif Smooth No peanuts in it, no crunchy. But so for our house, it is definitely a cult brand. Any student thoughts?
I thought Jif was a Procter and Gamble brand. Is Smucker's owned by P&G?
No, no.
Smucker's has purchased a number of brands. They own Folgers Coffee. They own Milk-Bone dog biscuits. They own Jif peanut butter. They're acquiring brands, so they're going beyond peanut butter and jelly. Obviously, they're exempt. They're the exemplar brand, I think, for jams and jellies.
I mean, Jif is a remarkable story of cult branding in regards to their ethos of choosing moms choose Jif. Jif has 3x the market share of the next biggest competitor, who I think is Peter Pan. But yeah, no, I also saw something with Smucker's and Dunkin' Donuts, and I don't know if that's simply Smucker's provides the jelly for the jelly filled, or do they own
No, so Smucker's sells the Dunkin' Donuts coffee that you can buy in a grocery store is produced by Smucker's.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I have some students in the chat room, so if you want to look at the chat, Andrew said I would consider Smucker brand products to have a cult following, but the brand itself is not. Kneeland agreed with that. Abby said, I did not work there, but a friend does, and they do a lot for their employees. So those are some of the comments coming in on the brand J.M. Smucker from the students. But feel free to unmute anybody, and please speak up your thoughts about Smucker's brand. What could they do to be a cult brand?
So I'm the one who mentioned the friend that does work for J.M. Smucker. And when she first started working there, she loved her job so much that I have never seen somebody just promote her product or her company as much as what I did there. And that right there is free promotion just because of the way that they treated their employees, and they treat their employees.
Well, there's an aspect to branding that leverages the internal employees as advocates for the brand, and it sounds like they're doing a good job of that then, according to your friend, Abby.
I think Chris, you mentioned too that there is that correlation between a happy employer or a happy employee and a happy customer. There is that, I think one thing that I've heard you mention before is this idea that it's not just a company you buy, but you buy into. That determines cult status, and I think to that point, that's employees buying into the whole thing.
Yeah, the way the first thing I do, and I have the opportunity to evaluate hundreds of brands every year because we do essentially an award show called The Gathering, is I talk about the courageous ambition of the leadership team. So businesses that are trying to grow 3% next year or make sort of financial statements to appease their shareholders have a very different ambition than businesses that are trying to do something more noble. Now, it doesn't always have to be saving the planet like Swell water bottles, or I like Southwest Airlines wanted to democratize the skies. Mercedes-Benz tries to represent the epitome of a life of achievement. So it really comes down to, why does the business exist? What's the dent that it's trying to make in the universe? And if Smucker's is just trying to sell a lot of tasty products, it could be a great company and a great brand, but it's not a cult brand. Like Airbnb, one of my favorite cult brands, is not trying to just replace Marriott. They're trying to create a world where everybody can belong. And they're trying to have a different ethos about what it means to be a host and what it means to be a guest. And they spend millions and millions of dollars not just trying to get transactions, not trying to get people to just use Airbnb, but to buy into Airbnb as a lifestyle. And so that's where I would argue I didn't see much about what Smucker's is trying to do other than just, make the world a bit tastier place or a better place. There's nothing wrong with that, but that's where I would lean into their noble ambitions.
Any other questions? Oh, Chris, we had a question in the chat about their logo rebranding. I don't know if this is you. This is their brand new logo. They used to have, before that was an actual strawberry. This is just within the last 3 or 4 weeks that they've changed this. You know, what do you? I don't know if this is how the corporate identity fits into cult brand, but that's just a question we got from one of the students.
I think it's fine. I think that there's two things. One, rebranding a company is a very strategic exercise to achieve a very specific objective. Most often, either to avoid some negative PR, like, you know, Anderson, the accounting, Arthur Anderson becomes Accenture because they were associated with the Enron scandal, or because they're trying to become something very different than what they were before, so they don't want to be associated with the past. So to me, rebranding is not a creative exercise, it's a business strategy exercise. And then when it comes to things like the design, it's 99% irrelevant to consumers' affinity for the brand. So when I see people getting these uproars about, well, Gap changed their font, or you know, some Smuckers changed the shape of the strawberry, that's the design community having too much time on their hands to worry about things that are largely irrelevant. It's art. It's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. If your client likes it, change it. If not, leave it as is.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I read when we talked about why Smucker, why they talked about why they did it, was this idea that they've really diversified the companies that are under their umbrella, the JM Smucker company. So they've added the pet food, they've added, you know, they've gone beyond just the jam, the strawberry jam. And I think that's, you know, kind of to your point, it's a business strategy as opposed to a design exercise. So one question I had, and I know we're almost about a time. Actually, it's 1:30, but I'm going to ask this really quick. So you've done all this analysis of companies, you've done this analysis of brands. What the leaders that make these decisions? What's in their DNA? Like, what do you look at from a individual perspective? Like the guy from Sprint, or you know, people that, like, one of the brands that I remember when I went to your gathering event was Yeti was being honored. I mean, that's a cooler. At the end of the day, it's something that keeps items cool when you're out camping. But yet there is this thing to Yeti that people are wearing Yeti hats. What's in the DNA of the people that lead these cult brands that are different than other companies?
Most companies have leadership that wants to be successful. Cult brands have leaders that want to be significant. And significance is not always, I think you can be, success can be an outcome of your significance. When you look at a Patagonia or a Ben & Jerry's or a Nike or an Apple or a Starbucks, these brands exist beyond making profit. And they tell different stories, they appeal to different audiences. So when we audit a company, we talk about how much are you talking about what you sell, and how much are you talking about what you stand for? How much are you talking about your value versus how much are you talking about your values? And it's this huge leap of faith. People get worried, most marketers get worried that if they're not screaming a price or a sale or a discount or a feature or a new product, that customers won't buy. And if you can cross that chasm, you have that leap of faith to talk about who you are and what you stand for. That is why Tesla is the most powerful automotive brand on the planet, is he's never talking about his miles per gallon. He's never talking about the steel. He's talking about the insurgency that is going to create a completely different kind of car company. And that playbook has been written before. It was written 30 years ago with a company called Saturn, which also was a way of sort of standing for something different than just a reliable automobile. It stood for almost like pirates, people that were tired of the existing establishment. So that's what Yeti is not about $400 coolers. Yeti is about they're tired of cheap shit that ruins the outdoor experience. So if you want to have an amazing time in the outdoors, you need to surround yourself and outfit yourself with the equipment that can do so. Because they believe more people would love the outdoors if they didn't have crappy styrofoam igloo products that broke all the time.
All right, any other questions? The class is over, the class time. Jim, any final thoughts from your end?
No, I just want to say thanks again to Chris and to you, Jacob, for allowing us to be here today. Gosh, Chris, I could go on for hours asking you about B2C versus B2B marketing. I see so much parallel in your cult branding to what I used to teach in B2B. The emphasis in B2B is less on promotion and more on the other P's. I mean, I'd just love to hear. I'd like to pick your brain for the rest of the afternoon, but unfortunately, we have to pull a hard stop here. So I just want to thank you again.
No, my pleasure. Thank you guys for listening.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. We talk about COVID, and it's disrupted our lives, and people have lost their lives, and I recognize that, but I'm also very grateful that the fact that we are able to have, because of the fact that we're virtual these days, to have someone like you come and speak. So while that is a kind of a tragic thing, there's some silver little linings on that. We're able to have you come and speak with us today. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. And for those that are students, hopefully when you're ready to, you're getting ready to graduate, you're looking for a really cool marketing conference to go to, check out the Gathering of Cult Brands. That's Chris's event that he does up in Banff every year, typically in February. So you can go skiing, as well as hear from some really cool marketing companies. But definitely recommend that, and follow. Chris, I'm sure you would be okay if students wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn. Connect with you that way. And if there's a way if they have any other questions. So thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate your time today, and good luck with everything with your company. So thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.